When people operate suspiciously at airports around here, people start acting suspicious. I mean, law enforcement hovers around most airports in the southeast United States to some extent. They hover around airports around here, obviously, and they were told to stay away from that operation.
Who was told?
The Sarasota County drug interdiction people were told that they had a green light to operate and that they were to stay away from that. They were some type of alluded to the fact that they may have some type of government protection.
Government protection of Rudy Decker's? That would explain the softball coverage by CNN. The question was, which part of the government?
It's a published known fact that some people fairly high up in the CIA have started developments around here. I think by developments I'm talking investments after they retired. I would say that it's not the Bush's vacation here.
Rudy Decker's doesn't impress locals as any sort of budding James Bond, but the money man behind Rudy, he's another story.
It seemed like he wasn't maybe quite as astute as I would have thought somebody in the intelligence community would be. I mean, you think of these guys looking like James Bond, or, you know, wearing flower shirts and carrying Walther PPKSs. Wally certainly could be. I mean, Wally was unassuming, nice guy, had a cell phone, rang all the time, had an affinity for Learjets.
Do CIA agents have an affinity for Learjets? Was there evidence of a large covert presence in Venice, Florida? Rudy Decker's business partner in Washington State provided the critical clue.
Richard Bulkeley started in the business of creating freestanding retirement homes. And he, at one point, had the largest company, the largest holding of these freestanding retirement homes in the country. One of the retirement homes that belongs to the company that Richard Bulkeley once held was just a stone's throw from the airport where Mohamed Atta was trained. And you have to ask yourself, there's a lot of coincidences here. Are they just coincidences, or is there something more to it?
In an ironic twist worthy of the spy fiction of Jean le Carré, it turns out that its elderly population, the very thing that made Venice seem an unlikely terrorist destination resort, was what drew Atta and his cadre here in the first place. American intelligence has had a significant presence here for a long time in, of all things, the nursing care industry. This stately colonial building, just a block from the Venice airport, was built to house the national headquarters of huge nursing care company, started by a man whose name is synonymous with American covert operations during the past several decades, Jackson Stevens. Jackson Stevens' name surfaced in the BCCI scandal, in the Mina drug scandal, in the Promise software scandal, in the Vince Foster scandal. This stately mansion, which still houses Jackson Stevens' law firm, is the house that Jack built. And right across the street is Richard Bulkeley's Altera assisted living facility. And just around the corner is Huffman Aviation. Our biggest discovery was that the parcels of land surrounding the Venice airport tell their own story of covert associations. It's the story of America's secret history. Here, Jackson Stevens' law firm, Boone, Boone & Boone, it still exerts control over the civic destiny of this tiny town. And the founder of the firm was former Florida Governor Lawton Child's college roommate, a detail whose importance will shortly become clear when we look just down the street, where right beside the Venice airport sits the long-time winter home of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. The circus was brought to Florida, we learned, by its longtime owner, John Ringling North. John Ringling North, back in World War II, was an agent of the precursor of the CIA, the OSS. And not just any agent either. He's credited with securing the release from Italian prisons of key mafia figures who repaid his kindness by assisting in the Allied invasion of Italy in 1944. More than 50 years later, sitting right beside the Ringling Circus grounds, right next door to Jackson Stevens' law firm, and right beside the Venice airport, is a parcel of land housing the Italian-American Social Club. They couldn't put this in a movie. No one would believe it. Friday night is pasta night, we're told. We wonder what they do there other nights. As it happens, a traveling circus, which was often touring behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War, provided excellent cover for intelligence activity. Ringling's winter home beside the Venice airport also housed the famous Clown College, where for many years the CIA sent recruits as part of their training. Why does a CIA agent go to Clown College? The answer's simple: to learn sleight of hand. And now we've come almost full circle. Because remember Stevens Law Firm's founder's college roommate, Democrat Lawton Chiles? Well, oddly enough, it was he who gave Rudy Decker's only celebrity endorser, Republican Katherine Harris, her start in politics when he named her to the board of the Ringling Circus Foundation in nearby Sarasota. They couldn't put this in a movie. No one would believe it. It turns out that Venice, including neighboring Charlotte County, have been hotbeds of covert intrigue for as long as anyone can recall. At least 23 helicopters have been made to disappear from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Department for reasons unknown and sent to exotic and faraway destinations, like Chile.
Charlotte County always had kind of a shadow. There's a fellow that rebuilds helicopters, and he's always been in quasi-problems with the FAA with these helicopter parts.
Jamie Hill.
Yeah.
Who the sheriff, the Charlotte County Sheriff, is investigating for as being involved in the disappearance of 23 of Charlotte County Sheriff's helicopters.
Lose 23 helicopters.
Well, you wouldn't think Charlotte County would need 23.
No, that's, of course not.
Why is this of any interest to us and our story? Because despite what we've been told by the FBI, Charlotte County was the first home in this country of Mohamed Atta. These emails are from Mohamed Atta, discovered by Charlotte County law enforcement and shown here for the first time. They reveal that Atta was sending email correspondence to people who appear to have been working for U.S. defense contractors, like Virtual Prototype, whose website says the firm helped prototype avionics for the F-15 jet fighter, the F-22 Raptor, the B-2 bomber, and the Apache Longbow. We discovered that Rudy Decker provides regular maintenance to an airline based at Charlotte County Airport, Carib Air, owned by Dietrich Reinhardt, a notorious Iran-Contra operative. Reinhardt also has the distinction of being business partners with the man suspected of making all those helicopters disappear. Deckers does work for a notorious CIA proprietary air carrier with a particularly blemished past, including blemishes like having its aircraft seized at the infamous Mena, Arkansas airport, and being accused by government prosecutors of having used its planes to ship drugs worth billions of dollars into this country. Finally, yet another Iran-Contra operative, Frank Moss, is a conspicuous presence here too. He owns this vintage DC-3. It's painted to look like an airborne ark, which has been sitting at the airport since its seizure 2 years ago. As it happens, our old friend Barry Seal's pals have their fingerprints all over operations in and around Venice, Florida.
We knew that Rudy had a lot of money behind him. We knew he had a lot of money backing him.
I think common sense should prevail. And I think if you're a thinking person and you have common sense, I think that you examine the person making a statement and see if there's any reason for any falsehoods to erupt. And I think that it's it looks pretty suspicious to me.
So much dust in the air, so to speak, that people couldn't really focus on what was perhaps, you know, the true way the Trojan Horse got into this country.
In a world where the truth was something more than an inconvenient annoyance, there might be signs at the edge of this town reading "Welcome to Venice, home of the Trojan Horse." We don't live in that kind of world. Maybe we never will. We've just presented an hour's worth of anomalous evidence pointing to the existence of a conspiracy to keep the American people in the dark about the true nature of the tragedy that darkened all our doorsteps last September. We could easily show you several hours worth of anomalous evidence more. But this is the point of the show where we let down our journalistic guard, where I tell you what I think. I think that there's only one thing worse than having to watch human beings jump out of 100-story windows in 2s and 3s holding hands. And that's having to watch it and then having your government lie to you about who did it and why. I think that the brutal reality of American life as we enter the 21st century is the same as that which faced the citizens of Rome almost 2,000 years ago. when they looked on with despair at the swaggering and corrupt Praetorian Guard that had made a mockery of their once proud republic, and asked out loud the question that echoes down to us across the centuries: who will guard the guards?